Morning drifts through the curtains like diluted gold, touching the desk where Eleanor Ward sits, pen poised above the page. Her cottage is still except for the scratch of ink. 5 years, she whispers. 5 years of writing to a man who no longer answers. Yet today feels different. The sea outside breathes heavier. The air itself seems to lean closer. She folds the letter, presses her lips against the envelope, as if sealing a heartbeat inside, then stands. Bare feet on cold floorboards, she crosses to the red mailbox at the edge of the garden. The wind lifts her hair like a memory of fingers she once knew. "Good morning, Daniel," she says softly, sliding the envelope in. The hinge clicks shut, a sound too final, too faithful. Somewhere in that silence, the world listens and keeps her secret. By mid-morning, the wind has shifted. The smell of salt and baked bread floats through the open window as Eleanor clears the breakfast plates she never ate from. The knock comes, 3 soft taps. Maggie Hale steps inside without waiting, the way only longtime neighbors do. Her voice is warm but laced with worry. "Another letter today?" Eleanor nods, tucking a strand of auburn hair behind her ear. Maggie studies her friend. 31, eyes rimmed red, heart stitched together with paper and ink. "You can't keep living inside these envelopes," she murmurs. Eleanor smiles thinly. It's not living, it's remembering. The silence between them hums with things unsaid. The pity Maggie hides, the pride Eleanor refuses to surrender. The afternoon drifts her back into the past. Memory isn't a straight line. It folds, creases, rewinds. In her mind, Daniel is alive again, barefoot in their garden, laughing at the way the gulls steal his lunch. His 33-year-old face flushed with sunlight, his dark blonde hair caught by the wind. He turns to her and says, "Promise me you'll keep writing, even if I can't." At the time, she thought he meant his book. Now she knows he meant her letters. The vision fades as the kettle whistles, snapping her back to the present. The ghost of his laughter lingers, softer than the sea beyond the window. Evening lowers its weight across the coast, sky bruised with lavender clouds. The red mailbox stands alone at the edge of the garden like a sentinel of promises. Eleanor watches from the porch as children pass by, their laughter slicing through the quiet. She remembers painting that mailbox with Daniel their first spring here, his hands speckled with crimson, her teasing him about the streak on his cheek. Now it leans slightly, weather-worn yet stubborn. She approaches it as one might a shrine, fingertips brushing the rusted hinge. "Still here," she whispers. The sea answers with a low roar, and the world feels both infinite and impossibly small. The next morning brings rain. It drums softly against the window as Eleanor pulls on her robe and steps outside for the post. Among bills and catalogs lies a single envelope, cream paper, her own handwriting staring back at her. The world narrows to the weight in her palm. The seal is unbroken, but across the front, written in Daniel's unmistakable script, are 4 words that stop her breath. "I've been reading everyone." The sea seems to quiet. Even the rain hesitates. She sinks to her knees in the wet grass, the letter clutched to her chest. For the first time in 5 years, she feels him near, and for the first time, she's afraid. Rain has not stopped since morning. Eleanor sits at her writing desk, the returned envelope laid flat before her, like evidence of sin. She runs her finger across Daniel's handwriting, testing it as though it might dissolve. "Someone's playing a trick," she tells the empty room, but the words sound thin, unbelieved. Outside, the tide booms against the cliffs, rhythm of a pulse that isn't hers. She lights a candle though it's midday, as if warmth could unmake the chill in her chest. "You can't be reading them," she whispers, voice breaking on the impossible. Yet when the flame bends toward her, she feels watched. By love, by memory, by something she cannot name. Night comes early. She cannot resist reading Daniel's letter again, tracing each word as though the touch might summon him. The ink seems alive. The curve of his handwriting breathes familiarity. Phrases only he would say, private jokes, a line from their vows, stare back at her. The room tilts between memory and hallucination. She hears his voice, clear as surf. Write me again tomorrow. Eleanor's breath catches. She folds the page, presses it to her heart. Somewhere inside her, hope reawakens. Not bright and kind, but sharp, dangerous. Grief shifts, becoming hunger for proof. By the following afternoon, Maggie and Thomas Hale sit at Eleanor's kitchen table. The storm has broken. Sunlight glares off puddles. Maggie studies Eleanor with quiet alarm. "You're sure it's his writing?" she asks. Eleanor nods, jaw set. Thomas clears his throat, his weathered hands folded. "Could he've been copied," he says gently. "People forge things, Ellie." She meets his gaze. Steady, almost fierce. "No one could copy the way he spells, remember?" He always forgot the second M. Silence lands heavy. Maggie reaches out, touching Eleanor's wrist. Beneath her fingers, a faint tremor beats like a small, frightened heart. That night, Eleanor dreams of the lighthouse. Its beam sweeps the dark sea like an unblinking eye, each rotation spilling silver light across waves that whisper her name. She stands at the foot of the tower, salt spray on her lips, calling for Daniel. A faint figure waits at the top, hands on the railing, silhouette carved from light and mist. "You kept your promise," the voice says, both close and impossibly far. The wind wraps around her like arms she once knew, and for the first time in years, she feels warm. When she wakes, her pillow is damp with tears and seawater that shouldn't be there. Morning light returns in hesitant strokes. Eleanor opens her door to find a single envelope resting on the step. Dry, despite last night's rain. No postmark, no return address. Her heartbeat falters. She kneels, fingertips brushing the paper. Daniel's handwriting again, but this time the ink is darker, the strokes steadier. Inside, a single sentence. "I remember what you burned." She stumbles backward, breath ragged. The hearth still holds ashes from last winter's fire, the one where she destroyed his last unfinished letter. The sea murmurs outside, each wave sounding like her name spoken from a distance she can almost reach. Grief never began with his death. It started with the phone call. Eleanor remembers the voice on the line, a man from the harbor speaking too softly. "There was an accident," he had said. Words muffled by rain and static. She had run barefoot through the storm, salt wind cutting her lungs raw. The cliffs were alive with sirens and flashlights, men shouting over the roar of the sea. Someone tried to stop her, but she saw it. The wrecked car below, half swallowed by waves. Daniel's brown jacket clung to a piece of driftwood, fluttering like a flag of surrender. Even now, she still hears the ocean repeating the lie that he was gone forever. Time stopped counting after that night. Seasons passed unnoticed, marked only by the stack of letters growing taller beside her desk. Her handwriting changed, the loops tighter, words slower, ink darker. The cottage aged with her. Wallpaper peeled, photographs yellowed. 5 winters came and went, each one colder, quieter. Sometimes she spoke aloud while writing, just to hear a human voice. "Good night, my love," she'd whisper into the empty air. It became her liturgy. Somewhere between sorrow and devotion, she forgot how to live without the ritual of remembering. Maggie finds her there one morning, hunched over another letter, sunlight turning her hair to copper fire. "Ellie, you're vanishing," she says, voice trembling. "Daniel wouldn't want this." Eleanor doesn't look up. "Daniel wanted truth," she replies softly. "And this is all I have left of it." Maggie kneels beside her, fingers closing over Eleanor's ink-stained hands. "You're haunting yourself," she whispers. The moment hangs between them, tender and unbearable. Outside, the sea glints with merciless beauty. Eleanor finally meets her gaze, tired, defiant, and more alone than ever. The storm returns like déjà vu. Eleanor walks the shore, waves breaking cold around her ankles. Something glints in the tide, a small leather-bound book. Swollen with water, the initials DW pressed faintly on its cover. Her breath catches. She kneels, opening it carefully. Ink bleeds across pages, but she can still make out his handwriting. "If anything happens, tell her the truth." The words warp with seawater, but the meaning is unmistakable. A sob escapes her, raw and unrestrained. The sea gives what it takes, she thinks. And sometimes it returns what we're not ready to know. That night she lights a fire, the journal beside her. Rage and love blur into one trembling act of defiance. She pulls one of her letters from the drawer, the first she ever wrote, and drops it into the flames. The paper curls, blackens, disappears. She expects release, but instead feels the room grow colder. Hours later, she wakes to the smell of smoke, though the fire is out. On the table lies that same letter, untouched by ash, Daniel's handwriting now scrawled across the back. "I told you I was reading." The air thickens, her pulse quickens. Somewhere beyond the walls, the sea answers with a long, low moan. Dawn filters through the curtains like smoke. Eleanor wakes to find every drawer open, the air thick with the smell of salt and burnt ink. On the table lie a dozen letters. Her letters, each now written over in Daniel's hand. The lines shimmer faintly, as though still wet. Her heart stutters. She reads one. "I'm closer than you think." Panic and wonder fuse. She staggers back, knocking over her chair. For the first time, she says his name aloud in terror, not longing. "Daniel, what are you doing to me?" The cottage answers only with the slow creak of timber, like breathing. Thomas arrives by noon, summoned by Maggie's worry. He finds Eleanor on the porch, eyes sunken yet fever bright. "You're pale as the sea," he says, sitting beside her. She hands him a letter. He reads silently, then looks up, voice rough. "Ellie, this isn't healthy. You're chasing shadows." She laughs softly, bitterly. "Maybe the shadows chasing me." He studies her, 37 and fading, but radiant in conviction. "Promise me you'll stop before you lose yourself." She doesn't answer. The wind rises, flipping the letter from his hands. It skims across the yard and vanishes toward the cliffs. That evening, the rain returns, hammering the roof until it feels like the sea above her head. Eleanor searches through Daniel's journal, its pages curling with damp. In the margin of the last entry, a line she never noticed. "If the tide brings back what was lost, follow the light." A crash outside. Metal against stone. She runs to the shore. The red mailbox is torn free from its post, lying half buried in sand. Inside, an envelope untouched by rain. Her name in Daniel's hand. She clutches it to her chest as lightning splits the sky, tears and rain indistinguishable. "I'm listening," she whispers. The next day, a stranger arrives at the door. He is tall, dark-haired, with eyes that seem far too old for his face. "I knew Daniel," he says, voice steady, almost knowing. "Not well, but I knew him." Eleanor doesn't invite him in, but he steps across the threshold anyway, as though he belongs. His name is Elijah. He speaks as though the years between them don't matter. "He's been asking for you," he says, and the air thickens, becoming heavier, solid. "Daniel," she whispers. The stranger nods. "He's waiting for you to follow the light." Eleanor steps back, heart racing. "Where?" she manages. Elijah's lips curl into an unreadable smile. "At the lighthouse." The lighthouse stands at the edge of the world, its beams swinging out into the void. Eleanor approaches slowly, heart pounding. The rain has ceased, but the wind howls. She reaches the door, her fingers trembling as she touches the iron handle. Inside, it is darker than the night itself, and then she hears it. A voice, soft and familiar. Ellie. She freezes, eyes darting around the empty space. There at the top of the spiral staircase stands Daniel, impossibly real, his features soft in the flickering light. "Daniel," she breathes, stepping forward. "I came." He smiles gently, but his eyes, those eyes, are filled with sorrow. "It's time," he whispers. And then he steps back, disappearing into the darkness. The cottage feels colder now, even when the fire is roaring. Eleanor sits by the window, staring out at the sea, which no longer comforts her. The tides have become a reminder of what's lost, of what she never truly had. She's been avoiding the house, avoiding the corners where shadows linger too long. At night, she dreams of Daniel, but he is always just out of reach, fading before she can speak. She's beginning to wonder if it's better this way, if memories are meant to haunt and not to heal. The walls seem to whisper back at her. "Go," they say. "Let go." Ellie walks through the house like a stranger, her fingers brushing the worn frames of photos. She stops at one, her and Daniel on their wedding day, their faces bright with hope. It was always supposed to be us, she thinks. The photo seems to mock her, its bright colors too vivid against the pale shadows of the present. She closes her eyes, feeling the echo of his hand in hers, his voice in the soft murmur of the sea. It all feels like a dream now, one that slips away whenever she tries to reach for it. Did he ever really leave? She wonders. Or has he been here all along, just waiting to be remembered? Maggie visits again, her face pale, eyes wide with concern. "Ellie, you've stopped writing. You've stopped living." Eleanor only nods, barely meeting her gaze. Maggie continues, her voice trembling. "I'm afraid you're losing yourself. This obsession, these visits from him." Eleanor's lips tighten, her jaw set. "He's here," she says, simply. Her voice distant, Maggie steps forward, hands shaking. "He's gone. You need to stop. You need to stop, please." The words fall between them like stones, heavy and final. Eleanor doesn't reply, her mind drifting, distant as the sea. Maggie's words hang in the air, unanswered. One night, Eleanor finds a letter, folded neatly, that she doesn't remember writing. It's addressed to herself, written in Daniel's unmistakable script. "I know you're afraid of what's to come," the letter reads, "but you must trust that the light you seek will find you, no matter how dark the path." She stares at the words, the ink smudged at the edges as if it had been handled by someone with trembling hands. She folds it back into the envelope, her heart beating faster. What does this mean? Is this Daniel or something else? The answer is beyond her reach, but it feels closer than ever. She knows now. The truth Daniel tried to tell her is finally clear. His death wasn't an accident. She feels the weight of the revelation, both heavy and free. The truth has been buried in the letters, in the journals, in the quiet spaces where she couldn't see. He had known something that he couldn't say, and now she knows it too. She walks to the red mailbox, standing tall against the wind. "I've been waiting," she whispers. The sea responds, a long, slow roll of waves. The door of the mailbox creaks open, and inside, she finds a final letter. A letter that holds his truth, his goodbye. And as she reads, she lets him go, finally. Eleanor stands at the edge of the cliffs, the wind pulling at her hair, the sea below as cold and vast as the truth she's just uncovered. It wasn't an accident. The words crash inside her mind like the waves against the rocks. She's known it all along. buried beneath layers of love and denial. Daniel's death was deliberate. Something hidden, something she didn't want to see. The sky above churns with dark clouds, the world as unsettled as her heart. "Why didn't you tell me?" she whispers aloud. But the wind only answers with a mournful cry, and the sea refuses to give its secrets. The lighthouse looms before her, its beams sweeping across the stormy horizon. Eleanor climbs the narrow staircase, each step echoing her own descent into the past. The walls of the tower seem to close in, the air thick with salt and time. At the top, the light spins, casting long shadows across the room. Daniel's voice fills the space, soft and familiar, like a memory she's been holding in her chest. "You came." He's there, standing in the circle of light. She reaches out, trembling, but his form flickers, slipping like mist through her fingers. "I'm here, Daniel," she says, her voice cracking. But his smile fades, and the darkness begins to pull him back. The storm rages outside, but Eleanor doesn't hear it. She only hears Daniel's voice, faint yet clear in the air around her. "It's not your fault," he whispers. She turns, her breath ragged, but there's no one there. The voice comes again, this time in the rustle of the wind. "You've always been stronger than you think." Eleanor steps forward, the lighthouse door swinging open. The world outside has changed. The sea, the sky, all muted, softened. The wind carries Daniel's final message: "Let me go." It's a command, but it's also a gift. She nods to the sky, the wind, to the sea. And for the first time in years, she feels the weight lift. Eleanor walks along the shoreline, her feet sinking into the wet sand. The sea seems quieter now, as if holding its breath. She has made her choice. The letters, they no longer hold her. The past is a weight she can finally shed. She stops, staring at the horizon, the golden light of dusk spilling over the water. She whispers to the wind, "Goodbye, Daniel. I love you." The sea takes her words, and in return it gives her something unexpected: peace. Her heart, once trapped between worlds, beats for the first time in years, steady and sure. She is free to move forward. Eleanor stands at the water's edge, the final letter in her hand. It's still damp from the sea, its edges curling. She looks at it one last time, the ink smudged by time, by the ocean. "I won't need you anymore," she whispers. She releases it into the water, watching as it drifts away, carried by the tide. As the letter disappears beneath the waves, something inside her changes. She feels lighter. The sea has taken it. All of it, and now she is free. The wind stirs, the waves roll gently, and Eleanor turns, walking away from the shore, her path clear. A year has passed, and the house feels different now. The walls aren't as heavy, the silence isn't as oppressive. Eleanor moves through the cottage with a quiet grace, her steps light on the wooden floorboards. The red mailbox stands where it always has, but now it feels like a part of the landscape, not a tether to the past. The air smells of salt and flowers, and the sea has become a familiar companion, not a reminder of loss. She has learned to live again. She picks up a letter from the table and smiles faintly. There are no more letters from Daniel, but there is still life. The world feels, for the first time in years, full of possibility. The mail arrives as it always does, and she stands by the table, sorting through the usual bills and letters. Then, at the bottom, an envelope. Her heart skips. It's familiar, cream-colored paper, the handwriting unmistakable. She opens it slowly, almost afraid to read. "I'm proud of you." The words are simple, yet they carry more weight than anything she has ever read. She folds the letter carefully, tears welling in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispers, though she knows Daniel can no longer hear her. The words are a gift, a final blessing, one last message of love and peace. As the sun sets, Eleanor sits on the porch, the letter in her hands. She reads it again, the same words echoing in her mind. "I'm proud of you." She breathes deeply, feeling the weight of the past finally lift. The sea stretches out before her, calm and still. For the first time in years, she doesn't feel like she's drowning in grief. She feels free. "I did it," she whispers, the words barely audible. The light fades from the sky, but she doesn't look away. The world is still, and so is she, finally at peace. Eleanor stands, leaving the letter on the table, and steps outside. The air is crisp, the earth beneath her feet solid. She walks toward the sea, the familiar sound of the waves calling to her. She no longer feels the weight of grief pulling her down. The path is clear now, the future before her. As she reaches the water's edge, she stops and looks out at the vast expanse. The sky above is infinite, the sea endless. She smiles, feeling the cool breeze on her face. "I'm ready," she says softly, knowing that the past will always be a part of her, but it no longer controls her. She turns and walks away from the shore, ready to live again. Eleanor stands on the cliff once more, the wind in her hair, her gaze fixed on the horizon. The sea is calm today, a soft blue that stretches infinitely before her. She breathes deeply, feeling the weight of the years melt away. No more letters, no more ghosts. Just the present, the future. She smiles, her heart light as the sea below echoes her freedom. She has let go, she has returned to herself.